So what happens at an event, the experience, doesn't necessarily have to correlate directly with the budget. There's many things that could be done to be experiential that once we're there really don't cost anything else. And that's focusing on culture, taking and understanding the client's culture, reinforcing it, strengthening the values that they share. And that can be done even incorporating interactive activities that really focus on the communal intelligence of the attendees. And that's having the attendees interact with each other about the culture, about the company, about the next big idea, and bringing the collective wisdom out of that. There's so many ways to focus on culture, on important accolades of finding out new ideas, but those are things that can be developed within an event. Yes, the bells and whistles and the special effects and the performances all add to the experience. But what people will remember is the experience they had. They won't necessarily remember what everything looked like or what the theme was or anything else. So it's really getting into connecting with the people that are there in a way that is heartfelt, in a way that challenges them cognitively and reinforces why they're there and their commitment to the company, which would be our client. So
Hello friends, this is Events Demystify brought to you by Fun Events, and I'm your host, Anka. With me on the show today, I have Carey Smolensky, husband, father, papacy to his grandson, dynamic businessman, event producer, multifaceted entertainer, author, recording artist, and entrepreneur. Carey was born in Chicago and began his family of companies over 4 decades ago while in high school, and is constantly challenging himself to make a difference in the lives of others. He believes that change is the key to innovation and is constantly evolving both personally and professionally to continually live his life with passion. Author of Living Life with Passion and Helping Others, Carey has turned this book into an annual experience, the Passion Summit, as the next logical step in sharing the ability of living life passionately while helping others. Carey's goal of creating a like-minded community is just the beginning of being able to support each other while thriving personally and helping others achieve their dreams. And today we'll be talking about how you can live your life with passion personally and professionally, especially in a world of events. So without further ado, let's welcome Carey to the show.
hi, Anka. Great to be here.
Welcome. Well, it's so good to have you. Well, first off, let me just say, it's really an honor to have someone as incredibly diversified and someone that wears so many hats: entrepreneur, entertainer, producer, author,
I have a lot to live up to.
recording artist, motivational speaker. Wait, I'm not that. Family man. I mean, what is it that you don't do, Carey?
If there's something I don't do yet, we'll figure it out, because my whole attitude is there's not enough time in life. And I don't care how long I'll be living, it won't be enough to experience all the amazing things life has to offer, all the opportunities. So I'm always looking, it's always on my radar for the next cool, amazing experience. And that's kind of how I go by each day.
By the way, if you guys hear some birds in the background, Carey's in his backyard. I'm a little jealous because it's like thunder and storm in Boise right now. And Carey is like lounging in his backyard. Not at all jealous.
Well, we're in the Midwest outside of Chicago, so we're in our 80s right now.
I love it. I must say, Carey, I really enjoy reading your book, and I did make it a priority to read it all before our interview today. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and as someone that should probably not be allowed a highlighter, because literally I underlined the whole book. Because I mean, what's the point of like underlining if you're going to underline the whole thing, right? I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's awesome.
I wanted to start a conversation with referencing a few things you mentioned in your book, but do you expect me to kind of jump around from one thing to another? And my hope is to give everyone that's listening somewhat of an overview of all these life hacks that you shared in this book, and encourage them to maybe go to Amazon and pick up the book themselves, because I found a lot of advice personally and all those lessons learned quite useful for my journey. So on to our first topic of living life with passion while helping others. The first paragraph I'm going to reference is going to be, let me see. Okay, let's just pick one. Oh yeah, page 9. And this is something where you say, I learned to adapt to change rather than resist it, and to go after anything I wanted. If you don't try, you won't succeed. So you might as well try and give it all. You will never regret having tried, but you will forever regret not trying. And I love this. So my question to you is, how does one benefit from this particular life lesson in the world of events that we live in now?
Especially in this era where we're always going to be referencing, remember 2020. And it's going to be referenced just like the Great Depression or anything else. Remember 2020 when we couldn't connect, when we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. And there's always opportunities to do things even under those situations. My son traveled for 5 months, national park to national park by himself, camping, experiencing nature, socially distancing, and things like that. So he found that opportunity during that time. But if you don't make that first effort and you don't just do it, it'll never happen. When events shut down and we had nothing going on, as soon as COVID hit, I pivoted business-wise and became a supplier of PPE, personal protective equipment, and imported from CDC-approved factories, isolation gowns, masks, and things like that. So I figured it out. And the thing that I could say is half the people live their lives thinking they're too young to do something. The other half think, well, it's past my prime, I'm too old, and they never do it. And what ends up happening at the end of days is this quiet desperation and regret of the things you didn't do. And that's really the point I'm trying to make. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It could be in business, could be in personal life. It could be you're single, you walk into a bar and go up to that person you're hesitant of going up to. You don't know until you try in anything. And I think that so many times we are focused in putting our head in our phone and looking at the screen and not being aware of what's around us, that you could be walking by your soulmate and never notice that because you're not focused on that. So I think focus has a huge impact, and no matter what you're doing, you should be 100% focused on it, whether you're driving, whether you're speaking to someone, whether you are engaging in a business or a personal conversation, whatever it is, be 100% all in, and you will pick up on those opportunities that come up or those subconscious notes that you're going to see because you're completely aware. Just go for it.
Absolutely. We'll touch some more on this idea of focus and the attempt to multitask that we all have. I guess it's not necessarily attempt, it's more of a desire to try to do it well.
Well, let me throw something in on there, because multitasking, although I think I'm pretty good at it, which doesn't mean a thing because it's a horrible thing to do. You accomplish a lot more when you're not multitasking and you're focusing on one thing at a time. But because we all have these to-do lists and because we have so many things to do, we're multitasking when in fact we should just concentrate on the most important thing first and then hit the rest of that list. We're all going to die with to-do lists. We're all going to never accomplish them and finish them, but it's a gauge and it's a reminder of what we want to focus on.
Absolutely. Going back to what you said earlier, though, this idea of believing in yourself and knowing that you have what it takes, and based on that belief, just keep moving towards your goals and never looking back. I love what you said. You got to keep persevering and look for the right opportunities peace in life, because if you don't, they will certainly not find you. And that is so true in this time and space of events that we all had to live through. Now, I'd love to segue our conversation into this next topic of no excuses mindset. And I'm a type A personality. And I can see that both me and I, we have this thing in common, and everyone else that can relate to that is we are pretty open people, pretty open-minded people with a positive type of a mindset. Like no excuses is ingrained in us, and we love to live our life outside of the box. Like I personally can be put in a box and then expect to thrive, because it's just not going to happen. So no matter how good things seem to be in that box, we want to explore, we want to push the limits, and we try to advance our knowledge and our experiences. We learn our lessons the hard way and not allow setbacks to deter us from pursuing these goals that we have. But some people might find this very tiring and exhausting just thinking about it. So how do you motivate someone that just doesn't have that same drive to overcome?
Start. That's the first thing. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be talking about what they should be doing, and they're going to put it in a list, and they're going to come up with a date of when they're going to start. Stop all that. Just do it.
That would be my husband. I remember when we were dating, and it took him 9 months to propose, and I was ready to go like week 1, right?
People overthink, and you could talk yourself out of things. You could talk to friends who don't support you, and they'll tell you not to do it also. You could do all these different things. But if there's something that you want to do, figure it out. When COVID hit, there was no plan B. Everything shut down. You have to figure it out. So if there's something that you want bad enough, you're going to figure out a way to do it, and start now. That's the first thing. You can make a list of what you like and what you don't like, and focus on the things you like. If you're not sure about what it is you want to do that you're passionate about, so many people have so many amazing talents that they take for granted, and they don't think that it's work. But all their friends and family come to them and they ask them to do this one service or help them with this one task. And they do it, and they don't charge for it. So they don't have the understanding of what that is valued at. And I think we all have things that we really enjoy and we do for fun, but I'm sure there's a way it could be monetized. And that's another way to look at things. But if you're doing things that you love, you're never working. And that's part of the entrepreneurial mindset. I think that if we have it on our radar, that we're always aware of anything that could come up, then it's something that when something hits us, it resonates. And just do it. Just start and figure it out.
Just do it.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time talking about it, and get an accountability partner, by the way. When I wrote my book, before I even started my book, I put in my signature line, author of the forthcoming book, Living Life with Passion and Helping Others. So it was out there. I made a commitment. I told people it was happening, and I gave myself a deadline. So I think you really have to put yourself out there, get an accountability partner, tell as many people as you can that support you, and figure it out. And if you need a mentor, if you need to figure out people that are already in that industry or already doing what you're doing, do that as well.
I love that. And actually, I think I'm going to have to take that advice for myself.
What I did when I wrote my book, I didn't start with an outline. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and then I put things together, and then I put stories that fit, and I took out stories that didn't need to be in there. I shared the journey.
If it's going to be something that you're truly passionate about, it's like you said, you're going to find the time, the motivation, and not just that, but also the drive to make it happen. I want to actually move conversation into this question that you posed in one of the chapters, in which you said, and let me go to my notes here, page 22, guys, just so you know.
Page 22.
Yeah. Have people lost their ability to communicate? People don't take the time to develop a relationship and get to know each other anymore. And I felt like this was such an important conversation to be had. So I'm going to turn the question, do you think that people lost their ability to communicate during the pandemic, or have they gotten better at it because now they were forced to operate from like a distance, using the means of emails, text messages, WhatsApp, Zoom, whatever, to stay in touch?
I think they've become better out of necessity, but there's still a long way to go. I think over the years, I keep going back to old school rules and the way we did things back in the day and all that, where it was face-to-face, it was relationships. And I think that the culture has moved towards immediate gratification. And you want something, you can pull up your phone, you can have it delivered tomorrow. You can treat people like services or numbers, and you can text them and tell them what you want. You can order your food without speaking to someone. You can do all these things. And I think that's great for convenience, but horrible for interpersonal relationship skills and our society. And I think that the younger generations that are growing up with this culture and with the technology that's giving them these opportunities so easily are really missing out on developing a true relationship. And some of my longest relationships in business have been with people that I've become friends with over the years, that we've had each other's back, that they know we're a resource that they can trust and we're always there for them. And when times are lean or there needs to be accommodations, we work with them. And you do that because you have a relationship. And it's not just going through, well, if this one can't do it, I'll go to this one or this one. And now I'm changing my relationships into numbers and one and dones. And that's not what we're about. So I really think that although there's better knowledge that people have of technology, and people had to learn Zoom if they needed to speak to more than one or two people at a time in a meeting, and now there's many other options. But I think it forced people to get out of their comfort zone who maybe were not technologically inclined, maybe were a little bit shy in speaking. This was a way of being able to develop that communication on screen. I think that's all positive, but I do think people need to get out there and really interact and really learn the skills that are needed for face-to-face communication, and just being honest and be yourself and not put on these facades and not try to be someone you're not. It's that realness and that face-to-face. And I don't mean that if you and I are talking, I'm going to be looking this way, or I'm going to be in my phone over here, or I'm going to be, I'll talk to you later. I mean, 100% right here. And that's something that is missing in society.
Yeah, being present. No, I couldn't agree more. It's funny because, I'm one of those, the poster child of the first internet communications. That I think the first time I got on chatting, there was this service called Mirk. I don't know if you heard of it, Internet Relay Chat Client, that we used to have back in the days when internet just started. I think I was 5th grade when I was talking to people all around the world. Obviously, my parents didn't know. Obviously, I had no boundaries. And I remember later in life, because I started so young, like communicating via technology and chatting and chat rooms, and I was in a million of them. By the time I was a teenager and more like of a young adult, I had a hard time connecting face-to-face with people. Like I had to learn the art of conversing with someone face-to-face without, finding distractions or running away or evading the conversation. And it was something that served me well, obviously in life, later in business, in my relationships, moving on. But I see this new generation of kids. I see my kids, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we need to figure out a way to do a better job at teaching them the importance of being able to connect with people face-to-face and in person without constantly using our devices as a distraction.
Well, sometimes devices are used as a cop-out because it's an easy way out. People break up with each other via text. It's just such a lack of respect for your fellow human being. And that's something that's been very prevalent in the last few years, society anyway. Lack of respect for life, lack of respect for other people's opinions, lack of respect for science and truth and all those things. So we're in very unique times, and there's a lot of things that people are trying to navigate.
Yeah. So here's a moment of confession. So I had a situation not long ago in which I had a disagreement with someone that I personally consider a close friend. And I'm pretty much an old soul of the same kind of the old school mentality you mentioned that believes that you don't just throw things away, that don't seem broken. You try and fix it. You don't just give up on a friend because you just happen to disagree with them on some issue. And because the other side decided to walk away without even having one conversation about the situation, going back to what we just talked, I had such a hard time. And it took me a long time to get to a place where I was ready to forgive them and free myself from like just carrying this burden of trying to understand the reasons and come to a place where it no longer affected me, nor did it bother me or cause me any anxiety. And I can wish them well. I'm not harboring any resentment and grudges, whatever, any negative feelings that they just keep you captive from living this life in the present that we're talking about right now. And I wanted to, now that I got this off my chest, I wanted to ask you this question. How do you propose one can shorten this gut-wrenching process of forgiving and letting go if the person, whomever, is listening right now, is struggling with something or someone they know they need to let go and take their power back and not allow them to undermine their happiness of today and in turn their future? This is something that you've touched on in your book, and I would love to hear more of this positive mindset that you can bring to the conversation.
That's a great question, and I'm not saying it's easy. With anything else, it's going to take practice. But there's something I talk about in the book called the 5-minute rule. And the 5-minute rule is when something tragic happens, when something life-threatening, life-changing, anything happens that's beyond your control. Let's say you just got in a car accident and you were on your way somewhere, there's people expecting you, and you're okay. The other person is okay, but this is a delay. And you have a few options. Right then and there, you could be angry. You can fly off and yell at the other person before you're even seeing how they're doing. There's a lot of things that you could be doing. And you could also spend the rest of your day telling everyone you meet, I can't believe what happened, and this messed me up. Or you can realize that this is beyond your control. It's now in the past. It just happened. I'm going to take a few moments to deal with this. And then I need to remove all emotion so I can think clearly in a cognitive manner. Because if you're trying to make a cognitive decision that is of any importance, you cannot let emotion seep into that. So once you can put away whatever just happened and focus on what needs to be done next, you can think clearly, you can move forward. And it's the realization that harboring what just happened, no matter how horrible it is, still doesn't change the event. And you have the ability to allow or disallow outside influences to affect you internally. So if you want to allow a moment that was beyond your control to affect the rest of your day in a negative manner and to affect the day of everyone you meet for the rest of the day and maybe even tomorrow in a negative manner, you have the choice to do that. You can keep complaining, you can keep bringing it up, you can do all that, or you can move forward. And that's the biggest thing. You need to move forward and realize that if there's a situation that's beyond your control, you can't control how that other person thinks, acts, or responds to you. We always talk about treating people the way we want to be treated. That's not true. We want to treat people the way they want to be treated. We can't assume that they want to be treated like we do. So there's that understanding of the other person. A conversation is always good to be able to express both sides and feelings if the other person is up for it. But that's not always the case.
Before we move any further, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our main sponsor, Trifan Events, which is a boutique event planning and production agency that will come alongside you, offering personalized event planning and technical support, strategic event design, production and technology management, and flawless execution for live, virtual, and hybrid events. The team at Trifan Events is passionate about planning and producing event experiences that get people involved with true moments of interaction, engagement, and co-creation, while offering white glove treatment throughout the entire planning process, enabling you to reach your event goals with the use of creativity, production tools, and event technology. To find out how Trifan Events can plan and produce your event become memorable, go to trifanevents.com.
Yeah, and sometimes, you have to accept that and it can be a hard thing.
Right.
especially when you're a fixer. I really want to fix this because I know it's worth fixing it. It's just I don't understand why you don't want to. Here's another thing that I underline in your book, Carey, moving on, and it's regarding something that is one of those things on my mind, something that keeps me up at night, and it's legacy. I'm thinking of all the things that I'm doing and how it might help others in the long run. You said legacy is more about sharing what you have learned than what you have earned. It's about values over valuables. And to take this huge concept at a micro level, I think each event, bringing our discussion back to events, I think each event we plan and we produce has the potential to leave a legacy in the world for its participants. Now, we're both working event productions, and we have a million ideas how we could use the tools at hand to enhance an event, to leave a memorable impression, leave a legacy behind, impact lives, all the while creating unforgettable experiences. The main challenge for most event professionals is how do you do that while managing a budget? How do you manage that with your clients?
So what happens at an event, the experience, doesn't necessarily have to correlate directly with the budget. There's many things that could be done to be experiential that once we're there really don't cost anything else. And that's focusing on culture, taking and understanding the client's culture, reinforcing it, strengthening the values that they share. And that can be done even incorporating interactive activities that really focus on the communal intelligence of the attendees. And that's having the attendees interact with each other about the culture, about the company, about the next big idea, and bringing the collective wisdom out of that. There's so many ways to focus on culture, on important accolades of finding out new ideas, but those are things that can be developed within an event. Yes, the bells and whistles and the special effects and the performances all add to the experience. But what people will remember is the experience they had. They won't necessarily remember what everything looked like or what the theme was or anything else. So it's really getting into connecting with the people that are there in a way that is heartfelt, in a way that challenges them cognitively and reinforces why they're there and their commitment to the company, which would be our client.
And that's one of the reasons why I personally loved this time that we had of virtual events, because we introduced storytelling back to the event in a way that it hasn't taken that much space before. We are forced to, but then it brought this idea of highlighting people in the organizations in ways that it hasn't been done before. For this idea of like needing to create content, needing to put it on screen and tell the story.
Right.
And I love how storytelling became front and center. And I hope that as we move back into in-person, into hybrid, whatever that might look like, we keep some of those things and we keep highlighting some of the stories behind the scenes, some of the things that otherwise would have not taken space in an event.
Exactly. And now those are things that were happening pre-COVID. And then when COVID hit, we had to figure out ways to translate that to a virtual experience. So whether those things were handled by facilitation during breakouts, or they were handled during gamification or contests, or using the chat or whatever, the creativeness really came out in different people and their desire to engage. And then people all of a sudden got fatigue from Zoom fatigue, from streaming fatigue. And it's like anything else. You have to keep evolving. And that's the great thing about even the live events right now. We're seeing that so far about 90% of the live events that we're doing that started last month, there is a virtual component, and we're streaming for the people that can't get there. People are realizing that there's always people, even if there's speakers that want to present, but because of location or logistics or the time, they can't come in. There's now the opportunity to bring them in virtually in a live aspect or a pre-recorded, and plenty of people that can't attend live, there's opportunity to share that information a longer range. So I think these are all good things, and they're going to continue to evolve, and the technology is going to continue to evolve. But at least there's more people now than ever that are at least familiar with those platforms. So as things move forward, there's less of a learning curve for the consumer.
Now, moving the conversation into the topic of multitasking, because we were touching on it a little bit earlier, and you're of the opinion that multitasking goes against the idea of living in the present. And for many people, on the other hand, multitasking is a badge of honor. And based on some of the observations you brought into the book by, who was it, Lord Chesterfield, multitasking is actually not a mark of intelligence. And I feel like some people might get hurt.
Truth hurts. So let me
let me finish this, because I want to bring it to the question. And I personally, I couldn't agree more, because it gives me also the excuse why I'm not such a great multitasker. I mean, I try to be, but I'm not. I'm more like pretending to be, but I fail miserably. So to this point, I guess it's fine, because that means maybe I am a smart person that doesn't need to be multitasking. So I must say, though, this idea of multitasking, as you were, the reality is, if you work in events and you are an event planner, an event organizer, and you're doing all those things and you're wearing all those hats, how are you supposed to do all this without multitasking?
That's a great question. So let me explain my view on multitasking. And when I was writing my book, 2014 to 2015, that full year, I accomplished more that year than any other year, because whatever I was doing, I was completely focused and immersed in. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was writing my book and then responding to a text or an email or something else. And yes, when we do an event, we have to multitask if everything is not going according to plan, or if we don't have the right amount of people doing the right things. Now, what affects that? Budget affects that. Our ability to work with a client to make it happen no matter what. That's a different aspect, because there's plenty of times where I'm multitasking as an executive producer, and I'm running sound and I'm doing something else. And my V1 is not only doing video switching, but they're also running the robotic cameras. Now, is there a chance of something to be missed? Absolutely. But you have to do those things when you're comfortable with your skill level, when you're comfortable with knowing what the agenda is and what has to happen. But in an ideal world, we would have a different person for each job, as you know, in every position. Yeah. So in the event world, multitasking becomes necessary, but that doesn't mean it's the most efficient way of doing things. Yes, we're able to do those things. We're skilled at it. And what I'm trying to say about multitasking is really, if you are taking your focus away from any one thing, you're leaving open a possibility of error, of a mistake, of something else happening, because you're not fully focused. That's the whole point in a nutshell that way.
Sometimes it's a conversation that I have to have with clients. I mean, it was more before COVID. I think we're going to get into those conversations again post-COVID. What do you mean this one person tech position can do all three things that is required of them, like run lights, run sound, and write a video? Or it's the opposite too, when you walk into a situation and you see one person behind the tech table trying to do it all, and you're like, now I'm in trouble.
And it depends on that person, because I've been in situations where I've run the entire tech table and I'm fully confident in what I'm doing. I have it set up as a console dashboard, and I know based on the content that's going to be used, there's no surprises. But that's something that the client knows. If another speaker comes in and needs something transferred, there's no graphic designer there. There's no one that can stop what they're doing to do that. So we make sure in advance we have all of the content. We have the full agenda and those types of things. But in any situation, it's always better to have more people and have every position filled, and that's the norm. I'm just talking about exceptions when we do have to do that multitasking. It is what it is based on the situation.
Well, Carey, we barely scratched the surface on your book. Like, I don't think we got to page 25. So I hope our audience got a foretaste of what your book is all about. As we come close to our time here, what are some parting life hacks, life lessons, wisdom you like to share with our audience in the context of living a life with passion, impacting other people's lives by creating unforgettable experiences, either personal or event related?
I think and there's so many different things, but one of the things that can resonate with people that are just starting up or becoming entrepreneurs or starting a business or reinventing themselves is delayed gratification. And so many times people make their first sale and they want to go out and celebrate. And they want to blow a ton of money on something that may make them feel good for the moment, but after a day, after 2 days, it's no longer new. And now they need the next shiny thing. So I think the concept I'd like to share is you need to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. And that's your priorities. Work your butt off and do whatever you have to do, like there is no plan B. And rewards come later. We're not just looking at the one and done and all of a sudden you can celebrate, because life is a journey. Your success is a journey. And the more success you have, the more you realize that it isn't about those little wins. It's about the excitement of the game. It's about what can you do. With me, our family of companies are the means to an end to do all the other things that I want to do in life, like giving back, making a difference in the world, helping with other charitable organizations and things like that. But you can't do those things unless you have a source of income coming in, you have a business coming in, you're stable at home, your relationship is where it needs to be. So you have to look at all these pillars and make sure that when some are lacking, to kind of focus on those. And whatever you need to do to be the best version of yourself, morning rituals, time alone, meditation, yoga, to be in the best physical and mental health that you can be so that you can support others. Those are all important things. And sometimes we get swept up in the excitement of what's happening at the moment that we lose track of the big picture, because 10, 20 years down the road, those things that seemed all life-changing and all-encompassing back then really are not even remembered. Or if they are, they were life lessons. And always learn from the mistakes. I look at challenges rather than problems. Challenges have a solution to them. And if you don't have a challenge, you don't have an opportunity to figure out how to deal with that when it happens next time. And that's a perfect example in the event business. It's fine to learn how to deal with things from a book or from someone else telling you. But when it happens to you and you have to go through the paces of figuring out, troubleshooting and everything else, there's nothing like a life lesson. So I'm very grateful for the failures that have come over the years.
I will have to say, though, to your point earlier, as a millennial myself, it is hard to live life with the idea that 20 years from now, I'm going to take my big vacation and go enjoy life.
No, you enjoy it every day.
Live in the present. Like, I want to have all the experiences and all the adventures right now. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us.
That's a fair truth as well. But if you focus on learning how you can glean the enjoyment of every single day and find happiness from what you're doing and how you're making a difference and from the relationships you have, then that one trip is not going to be the make or break of your happiness.
It's true. Yeah. That's why probably some people have midlife crisis, because they come to a point in time where they're like, all those things I thought I was going to do by now, and none of it actually came to be. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Carey, I want you to talk a little bit about your foundation, to which some of the proceeds actually from the sale of this book go to. Would you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Sure. Front Row Foundation is wish-granting organization for people that have a life-threatening illness, disease, or situation. And we take these people and their families and we put them in the front row of their favorite concert, sporting event, theater, and create a front row experience, not just for them, but for their family, because this is a day that they're totally removed from their illness, meaning that's what the focus is on every single day. And now they can really enjoy something that the family can't make time for, doesn't maybe have the means to deal with. And we come in and create an experience that not only the recipient appreciates, but the family appreciates for years after the recipient may pass away. We document it in video and in a photo book. It's also a community to bring together people that are fighting for their lives and with the understanding of what it means to live your life in the front row for everybody. And whether you're experiencing something from the back and barely paying attention, or you're fully engaged in the front row of an event or an experience. So it's a organization that's near and dear to my heart. It's really a phenomenal organization. John Vroman is the co-founder and wrote a book, Living Life in the Front Row, that really brings life to that experience. And I've been fortunate to take 3 recipients on these experiences. And it's something that is so heartfelt, and the appreciation is so awesome from the family that it's definitely something that makes a difference in all their lives. And it's a beautiful organization.
I love that. Well, Carey, I love how focused you are on helping others in everything you do. So for anyone that wants to connect with you, where's the best place to do that?
Well, appreciate it. My personal website is CareySmolensky.com. My business website is CSPWorldwide.com. I can be reached at Carey, Carey, at CSPWorldwide.com. I'm out there on the internet too. So if you Google me, you might find a few other things too.
We were going to talk about your song. Yes.
You were?
I want to hear a bit. Come on.
What do you mean? Here's a little secret that I know so well. It seems so simple. I just have to tell. It's all about life, man. So live it to the fullest. Anyone can do it. You don't got to be foolish. Time is something not easily grasped. It goes and comes, yet no one asks. Where did it go? Why did it leave? You think it is abundant. You're the only one deceived. Life is too short, so live it while you can. Love is for the loving, so love how much you can. Motivate, articulate, demonstrate, and never hate. Front row, living right now. Don't procrastinate. Favors take too long. I'll be getting old. Step up to the plate before the food get cold. Hustle, dig deep like a shovel to the soul. See me on the microphone. My friends are like, whoa.
Woo!
But other than that,
Rock on, Carey.
yeah, there's a few other things I like to do, but that's one of them.
I love it. We're going to have to add a soundtrack to that when I mix this down. Well, Carey, thank you so much for this time together. It was so much fun.
Truly a pleasure.
I will look forward to partnering on other fun things. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Chicago day in your backyard.
I appreciate you and appreciate all the people watching. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, my friends. This is it for today's episode. And to use a quote from Carey's book, I'm going to end on this. Love your life, live it with passion, strive for excellence, and always help others. Thank you so much for all of you listening to the very end. Wherever you are in the world, wherever you're tuning in from, if this podcast is making an impact in your life, please do take a moment to subscribe and leave a 5-star review to make this podcast visible to more event professionals like yourself. I welcome your feedback. Keep that coming either via the social media channels listed in the episode notes or via email, podcast@trifonevents.com, which is also in the episode notes if you don't know how to spell that. And if you're on Instagram, do follow us, Events Demystified Podcast, where I share clips and sneak peeks from all the upcoming episodes. I think we have about 4 followers. You could be the 5th one now, so do that. In the meantime, have a fantastic rest of your day. Until next time.